Ready?
Yep. Yep, we're recording.
So we will call the meeting to order, 4:30. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Kathy Boyno. Nick Serrano. Lloyd Moran.
Here.
Valerie Borsa.
Yes.
Clay Hart.
Here.
Okay, Trinidad Times presentation.
That's you're up. You're up.
Yeah, really.
You're right at the top.
Just
Were you
had time.
ready? Okay.
Not really. So, guys, if you don't know me, I'm Tom Murphy, owner of Millennium. If you don't know, Trinidad Times TV. So, I was going to do a full presentation today, but I didn't have time to get it all prepared. Things always come up. So, what I thought I would do is I'm going to talk about the past, and then my written presentation I'm going to send to Dan, and if he would send it to the board members, and then we'd like to meet at your next meeting. But today, I just want to talk about history, because where we're sitting here and where we were back in 2005 and 2006 is completely different. And it's all thanks to some people like myself and the Times Independent that had the courage to go out and write some stories and be present at some meetings that were quite controversial. It wasn't easy being at all those meetings, but we made a commitment and we made a difference. And I can tell you, yeah, the history was really important, but I realized that I still have our archives of our newspapers. And so what I thought to do is take 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm going to leave this with you guys. I should have made one for every board member, but I thought maybe you guys could share it, just tell you a little bit about each one. I think there's some of them, I think I can go through this in 10 minutes, so I'm not going to eat up a whole lot of your clock. So Paul and I bought the newspaper in 2002. In 2004, I realized I could start my own television channel, needed content, realized as we went through 2005 that government would be a great place to put content on, because what's happening in our community, a lot of people don't know. And so I started showing up and filming meetings. The first meeting I ever filmed was city council, and when I walked in, Jim Soltis, who was the city manager at the time, said, what city council member said you could do this? And I was like, First Amendment. So I filmed the city council, I filmed the county commission, and on October 25th, 2005, I filmed the ambulance board up at the community center because they had a special meeting, and Ken Remy couldn't be there. So what had happened, and I'll give this to Dan and he can share this with you, is this is March of 2005, and somebody at the hospital had questioned the reliability of the ambulance service, made the front page. And it was that what facilitated the state, I think, eventually coming down, as I recall, and saying, you got some issues that you need to address. So this is farther into the year, just talking about county withholding funds from the ambulance district because of the problems that they had. This one's somewhat comical. Ambulance workers, firefighters charged in pie pilfering.
Oh, I remember that. I wasn't here, but I do remember. I've heard stories of that.
Yeah. So this is in October, and this is when things started to get hairy. Solutions eyed after ambulance suspensions.
What year?
2005. It's 2006 that gets interesting. It took me 3-4 hours to go through this last night till 1 o'clock in the morning. These are some letters to the editor. This one here, this is before social media, and Michelle Minion had gotten on the board, and what was happening is some people had written a letter and they were spreading it all around town, and they're asking people to copy it and share it, and it was attacking her character. And now it just happens on social media. And I still have that letter in my files. It was really a sad state that Trinidad lowered itself. And that's why I realized in reading through this and getting this for you guys that you're not really going to digest what I'm telling you unless you take a moment and read through some of these to see the scope of what happened. At one point, one of the director at that time was talking about conspiracy and said they were out to get him. And And then there were some letters to the editor backing them up, and it got contentious in the city. I got to see the dates on it. I should have written the dates on all these because that would have helped me. But I've numbered these so you can go through. This is one of my favorites. You'll see the ambulance had a side business of making removals for a funeral home in town. Not me, but they did it quite a bit. And one year they needed 53. That was brought to an end as all this came and came to fruition. But what happened in October is when the state came down and said, you have some issues. And it's the first meeting that I walked into and I filmed. And then it evolved all through 2006. And we ended up, for the first time, the ambulance had an election. Before, nobody knew when their meetings were. Nobody knew who was on the board. And that's one of the things that I'm really proud of that I've done as far as local government is getting out there so people watch and they know what's going on. And I don't want to see that happen again where people get lazy. And the younger generation, they need to get involved because they're not. I mean, city, county, and every place else. We need some more people to get involved and know what's going on in government. We can debate what's going on nationally all day long and get until we're blue in the face, but you're not going to have an effect. You want to have an effect in your community, come in at the local level and get involved, whether it's the school board, the city, or whatever. I mean, and I've been part of the city for a long time, and it makes a difference when you're there. County review of emergency services pending. It just grows. Boy, this was another funny one. They had an ambulance that wasn't licensed or tagged or anything, and they were like, if it had been an accident, they had to pull it off the road. That's how bad things were. That's why I'm like, I was telling you last time when we talked, it's like, you don't know how good you guys have it. And that's when I look around, I'm like, a lot has happened in the last 15, 16, 17 years. We had an election, 9 on ambulance board. This was when we had the people had announced. This is March. And then I had meet the candidates at my place in April. And I'm going to put that in YouTube. I'm going to put the first meeting, October 25th, on YouTube here in the next week or so, and then the meet the candidates, which was comical, to say the least. Former ambulance director hit with theft charges. 2006 was quite a year for you guys. Ambulance, here it is. Ambulance candidates discuss views at forum. We had a good slate of people running. Go through this faster. And you'd asked me about filming the hospital. Well, actually, I tried to that same year, and I showed up, and Dr. Carlisle wouldn't let me turn the camera on. So, in time, my goal is to get back to the school board and every other governmental entity, but they're a nonprofit, and that's farther down for me. But I did film them for a while. So that's an answer to your question the other day of like I did, and it was just about as hostile. So, emergency services review recommends major changes. I think that was coming from the state. EMS reviewers meet with the public. I have all this on tape still too. And my plan is with the city, the county, the school board, and all these is to eventually to put it online so that people can see it. Ambulance board district gets new members. I think I must have had one out of sequence there. Ambulance board adopts memorial resolution. That was for Michelle. This is all 2016. You guys aren't in the news that much now. New ambulance service regulations arrive. I think that was from the state. Chambers offers, Brandon was given the job permanently. Ambulance boards here's input on boundary expansion. You guys know more about that, even though I was a part of it. It's kind of I've lost it as far as, Kim and all that other stuff. That was those issues. That was kind of a big deal. Ambulance district county review expansion plans. Ambulance district expansion set for voters. So it went to a vote of the people. State officials pleased with ambulance improvements. Ambulance district needs changes. That was Larry Parsons just talking, I think, about the up in Stonewall. Voters asked for ambulance ballot. They had to ask for it. And county incumbent stay, ambulance district expands. So
Is that all 2006, that last one?
that's all 2006.
Wow.
It was, and not only that, I had stuff with it was before Les's time. We had an off-site meeting because some of the city council members thought that they could have a meeting without the press there. So, so I'm going to put together a written proposal, but just let me sum up real quick. And like I said, I started doing this in 2005, and I realized that I could have an effect, and I did. I've never stopped filming the city. I did take a break briefly with the county, did the school board at every big contentious thing that happened, whether it was the city during the recall wars, with the county, with the school board, with Dr. Rodriguez, I think it was. I was there and filming it, and it made a difference. And what I'm hoping for is to put together a proposal for you guys in order to film and keep you guys separated from filming your own meetings and have them online or whatever, because it's a conflict of interest. I mean, you could easily say, oops, we lost that file or whatever. Then I'm going to be the one that's responsible. And so what I decided a few years ago is Trinidad Times TV really corporately is part of my funeral home, but I had decided a few years ago I'm going to start a nonprofit, and I will have that paperwork done by next month. It's going to be called Trinidad Open Media, and it's so the acronym, of course, is TOM. Just a little bit of ego there, so nothing wrong with that. But with that, it opens the door for me to be available to other entities that want to work with nonprofits. In 2018, Lloyd Holloman, who you probably all know, came to me and said, Tom, we need a video done for DOLA. We're applying for a $500,000 grant. I hadn't been doing any editing or anything in quite some time, so I had to sit down and relearn on the fly. And I had very little time to do it. And so we came in, and by the time we were done, it was 8 or 9 minutes. They said, no, it can't be more than 7 minutes. So I had to go in and edit out breaths. And the night before they left to Burlington, where they did the presentation, I ran to Pueblo and I got a DVD burner because the other ones weren't working. And I put together all these files, and I told them, you've got to make sure the equipment works before, you go. You got to get it set up and working. And the last file that I did is the one that worked. And they had 7 presentations, and they said out of the 7, mine knocked it out of the park. One from a Western Slope just called up and said, yeah, we'd like to apply for the money. And they said everybody else was pretty lame, but they said when my presentation came on, and it's still on YouTube, they said everybody sat up and paid attention, and the gal that was the liaison came and said, you weren't supposed to have audio with that. So all that time that I spent voices and doing the narrative and everything, they knocked out. So I contacted Lloyd last year to get a referral for some of this. And he said, Tom, how much we got for that? I said, well, the 500,000, right? And he says, no, we got 742,000. So my work is valuable, not just in transparency, but just the other things that I've done for the community, because there's not many people around that can do that. And so I will do a written proposal. And in the bottom line, it's about transparency in government. That's what I'm doing. I'm not writing editorials. I'm not judging you guys on what you're doing. I'm just there, and I'm being present. And then people can watch it for themselves and make their own determination. But the problem is that unless you hand it to people and say you can watch it, which will be on Channel 71. My Channel 71 now is on 24/7. It's local cable. Why is that beneficial? Because Grandma and Grandpa aren't going to go to the internet. They're not going to find a website, and they're not going to find a file that's a video. Okay, so I have Channel 71, and we're running 24/7, and then my YouTube channel, which now has 800 videos, mostly city, county, some school board, and some other stuff. But so the proposal is going to be for Trinidad Open Media to come and be available for you guys to film. You guys will have access if you want to download the files. It's possible. I had worked with Denver Open Media that we can even do transcripts, but that's an extra charge. And I'm not working with them right now because Denver Open Media has collapsed from where they were a few years ago. They don't have the people and the equipment and everything that they were doing. But that's something that we can talk about later. So that's the goal. The written proposal will come. Sorry, I ate up a little bit more time than what I thought. But yeah, so if you would do me a favor, go to Trinidad Times TV 71, like, share, and subscribe. So, this is, we're not live right now because I couldn't get, there's an issue with so I just did my own hotspot. And so it's easier for me to just film this and then go back and put it on. And that is one thing that Les would know about too. We have an issue with ADA, with our friend that was here before. If you're going to go live, technically you're supposed to have closed caption, and that's another step up. And it's like in this room, I'd have to mic you all up. So it's just easier for me to record you guys, take it back, and put it on rather than go live. But that's an ADA issue, and that's it. And then I'll get you the written proposal. So thank you for the time.
Okay, thank you.
And when you read through this, you'd be like, you guys, what's going on now is nothing.
This also is a much kinder, gentler, user-friendly Tom Murphy.
Yeah.
We used to get the Times and Critic, twice a week, and you would read it like, which is mortal fear that you would appear in the newspaper. It's like, oh,
I've gotten older. I've mellowed out. I don't want to fight anymore. But I want to live in a community where people are involved. And again, nationally, the discord that's going on is disturbing. But the most you can do is argue about it. Here you can have an effect, a big effect.
Right.
So start local. All government's local. So
good, brother.
anyway, thank you guys. That's it.
Nice to-
Thanks, Tom. Public comments and minutes, no one, regular meeting minutes and budget hearings from October 27th, 2021, which seems like so long now. And SLA and that's all this stuff right now.
Yep, part of that. That's the beginning of it.
Okay,
So they should be in order for you. Nope, from the front.
from the bottom. Yep. All right, so we have the minutes from October 27th. She sent all these out too. So were there any discussion, any amendments needed, changes, corrections by anybody? Okay, if not, then I need a motion and a second to approve them. Okay, I have a motion. Okay. And roll call.
Kathy?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Floyd?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Clay?
Yes.
All right, then from the budget hearing on the same date, which was October 27th, those were also sent out for review. Anybody have any amendments, changes, corrections, anything to those minutes? If not, then I need a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the budget hearing.
Make a motion.
Okay, Nick gives a motion,
I'll second.
Clay gives a second. Roll call?
Kathy?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Floyd?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Clay?
Signed, still delivered. Okay, Trinidad called to pay the architect.
Was the
That went around.
I just wanted to get it in the record.
So this is the one that came through the email where everybody got to vote to pay that check out to the architect. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and sign that one. It's not the check anyways, it's just the minutes that we did that. All right, what's this one? USDA Rural Development. The resolution of the governing body adopting and providing for standards for procurement, bidding, and contract awards.
Oh, I think you jumped ahead.
Yeah, that's 7. She had them all together, but
They
that's.
weren't in order.
Yeah, they're in
They're in
order. You're
order,
done,
but-
with that.
But you're done with
Oh,
your
I just need to
minutes.
go on the next agenda.
There you go.
So I'm going
You're
fast.
ahead.
All right. All right. So this-
Financial and billing?
Financial and billing report. October, November, December.
Only mine.
Slideshow, yeah.
It's been a while.
Okay,
God.
so, quickie. Cash on hand, October, we ended up with $3,389,000, November 2,766, December 2.5, and the reason that we had such a big drop from October and November, because to November, that's when we bought that building. So that was the check that came out of the building fund. Those are our ending balances. Cash on hand. Accounts receivable is problematic again. I sent an email to our billing company. The accounts receivable went up $200,000 from November to December. So I asked them what's the current amount, what's 30 days or less, what's 31 to 60, 61 to 90, 91 to 180, and over 181 days. And so she actually just, our billing person, our client success person.
Specialist.
Huh? Is that what it is?
Client success.
Client success.
Specialist.
She filled in the numbers and sent it back. And so I guess I emailed her back, and does this not concern anybody that we have all this accounts receivable sitting out there? Because in ambulance billing, it's easy to get your Medicare, Medicaid, you file it, you get paid, Medicare sends a check in 2 weeks. And then if everything else doesn't get paid, you can just let it sit, and it'll sit. If so, someone has to actually work those claims, and they have to make phone calls and, track stuff down. And it doesn't look like they did that for all of a sudden, that big jump from November to December. So they're getting on that. Go ahead, Barb. That was the response that I got, was this is a top priority. We'll continue to be involved and assist. Crystal, who's our other person, she actually gave us a pretty decent webinar type thing several months ago, and it was, she knows what she's doing, but you actually have to do it. So when we looked at 0 to 60 days as being pretty much our current bills, the total is $737,000, so that's a big chunk of what we have out. But 61 days over $782,000, and then over 6 months is $340,000. So they really need to start working on those, and they're telling us they're going to get on that. How do we end the year? We projected income of $2.4 million. We ended up with $2,833, 15% over the projection. The payroll expense was 1.6. We expended 1.179. So payroll was 27% under budget. Projected total expenses were 2,338, but the actual expense was 2,441, or 4% more. But then we did buy a $600,000 building. Net income was 555, 350 for the year. We certified levies for 2021. We were supposed to get 954, 927, but the district has only, as of December 31st, we only received 877 of that. So we've got almost $78,000 in tax money that we did not get, and that's probably pretty much will be our half of the rechassing for 1901, that transfer vehicle that we have. So it would be nice to get that money in. The warning signs that I'm seeing: increases into supply prices, supply shortages that we're seeing. Our fuel is up over $14,000, 34% over last year. Maintenance is up $8,500. Service is up $14,000. The property tax is going down. So our projected was $985. We got $877. 22 projected is $954. So we'll see what we collect out of that. But the tax revenue is going down. Okay. I just feel like in the future, if we're going to do a planning session maybe this summer, we need to look at a levy increase in order to maintain service levels, because I don't think for the next several years we're going to see gas prices decrease or supplies. We know at least for the next year we're probably going to see prices and supplies and shortages go up, shortages of medications, things like that. So I think it's just something we need to plan for. Everything else is getting more expensive. You can't pay for more expensive with the same money, the same income. And that's it. Any questions on?
So, we need to vote on that one too, right? Yep. You finished with all that?
Done.
Okay. So I need a motion and a second to approve the financial and billing report.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion. I need a second.
Floyd will second.
Okay, roll call?
Kathy,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Valerie. Yes. Clay,
Yes.
All right, so now we're on the USDA.
yes.
All right. So this is the resolution of governing body adopting and providing for standards of procurement, bidding, and contract awards. Whereas Trinidad Ems District of Los Animas County, Colorado has applied for a loan and/or grant to be made or insured by the United States of America, acting through USDA Rural Development, herein called the government, for the construction of facilities to be owned and operated by Trinidad Ems District, and the government's regulations required that the Trinidad Ems District Board of Directors adopt standards, A, relating to the conduct of its officers, employees, and agents in contracting and in expending loan and/or grant funds, and B, establishing procurement and contracting procedures. Now therefore be it resolved that Trinidad Ems District Board of Directors of Los Animas County, Colorado does hereby adopt the standards of conduct and procurement procedures set forth in those regulations of USDA Rural Development appearing in Title VII Code of Federal Regulations, Section 1942.18, J-O through K, provided, however, that in those instances where funds derived from loans made or insured by or grants made by the government are not involved, prior consent or approval of the government as provided in such regulations shall not be required. This resolution adopted by the Board of Directors of Trinidad Ems District of Los Animas County, Colorado, this 26th day of January 2022. And then it has the certificate to be signed by Barbara the clerk. And it says, Catherine Bueno of Trinidad Ems District, Los Animas County, Colorado, hereby certify that the foregoing resolution was adopted by the Trinidad Ems District Board of Directors of said entity on the date stated above at a meeting duly held upon January 26, 2022, notice or upon waiver of notice signed by all members of said Trinidad Ems District Board of Directors. So we need to vote to approve that, correct? Okay, discussion of what this is all for?
So this is.
It's for the USDA loan, and it's basically saying there's no conflict of interest. We're not going to spend the money on
Anything
things
else?
other than the building and what was agreed to by the government. And
And we're gonna behave,
yeah,
so that's what this piece of
does that
paper
sound
says.
pretty boilerplate to you,
It does,
Counselor?
it does. Not like I have a great deal of experience in reviewing these, but it does sound boilerplate.
Right, and before I forward this, if you guys approve it, I will send it to bond counsel
Okay.
for her to review before that gets sent to USDA, just to make sure it's.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so then we need a motion and a second to approve this resolution.
I'll move to approve that resolution.
Thank you, Clay. So we have a motion. I need a second.
Floyd will second.
Okay. Roll call.
Kathy,
Yes?
Nick,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Valerie. Yes. Clay,
Yes.
Very good. Do I have to read all this one
I
too?
don't think you have to read
You
it,
don't have to
they're
read
online. so-
as long as they were able to have them prior to
These
the
ones are
meeting,
always
you
long.
don't have to.
The 2022 election resolution. So everybody got copies of this one. And it's pretty standard. We changed that one out just with names and dates as we needed to. I didn't see anything else that,
Says that we resolve to hold an election on election day.
yep. Which would be May 3rd, 2022.
May 3rd, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. and for the offices for Nick and for mine. So,
She's already been here 4 years.
it goes by fast. Time flies when you're having fun. Okay, so, any discussion, any questions about this?
There was that form, I don't think it's this one, maybe right after where it has your name, it's like your office to be.
It's on here.
They looked like there were two copies of the same thing.
They're headed differently. You're
Yeah.
gonna have to choose whether you wanna have a polling place election or a mail-in ballot election.
No.
So you were provided both resolutions.
Oh, is
so
that
you
what it
could-
was?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why, yeah. So I gave you both of them so you could look at them.
Perfect.
Yeah, so this is saying we're having the election.
And that's
This
what
one says
kind.
we either want paper or
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
mail-in. A walk-in or mail-in. So, yeah. So this one is just saying that we're gonna have the election. So,
I'll move,
okay. Clay,
accept that.
so we have a motion, I need a second. Okay. Roll call?
Kathy,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Valerie.
Yes.
Clay,
Yes.
Nick has to sign that too. He's secretary, right?
Of course, we see is that the secretary.
All right, so this one has two different ones, but it depends on which one we're gonna choose. So that's what we were just talking about doing a poll or doing a mail-in. So discussion open on the floor by the board, what you would like to do.
I go with the poll. That's just me.
It's less expensive than the
Mail-in.
mail, and if people want a mail-in ballot, they can request one, so.
Otherwise you have to send one to everybody, or?
You get some, I think I was, what, another few more $1,000s to send it out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's thousands more to do, that's why we.
That's what I thought.
Nancy, go with the poll.
And then you don't have much more improved numbers either
Yeah.
than people who are coming in. So. Everybody wanna go with the
poll?
the poll?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to go with the poll, so I need a second.
well, who motioned? Nobody did.
All three of us.
It was just.
Floyd decided not to second, he's
Yeah,
gonna
so-
first.
Someone wanna make that into a motion for me, please?
Floyd will make a motion to
Thank
accept the
you.
polling
Okay.
resolution.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so you don't need this one. All right, so we have a motion by Floyd,
I'll second.
second by Clay. Thank you, thank you. And roll call?
Kathy,
Yes?
Nick,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Clay.
Yes.
All right, there you go. Yeah, lots of stuff.
All kinds of stuff.
Okay, so that's all that on the resolutions. Signed, sealed, delivered. Perfect. Okay, 2022 Workers' Compensation Board Exclusion Resolution. That one was sent out too, wasn't it?
Yep.
Okay.
And I think in the packet, there was an email from Spencer Fain kind of explaining what that was. And if you'd like, find it.
That was this one too. Yeah, that came with it. Okay. All right,
Yeah, you have it, I don't have it.
discussion, or the floor is open for discussion on this for the resolution of the Board of Directors to provide for directors' exclusion from workers' compensation coverage. So,
Just basically, instead of covering you and have to count you as employees, the board votes to exclude themselves, since you don't really, there's not much of a chance of
Right.
paper cuts,
Yeah, right.
pen injuries.
Burnt tongue, headache.
chronic headache, that's what I'm claiming. I'm filing paperwork today.
Only until May 3rd.
Okay, I mean, I'm good with it, but we need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll
I have a
second.
motion by Nick,
I'll second.
Second by Clay. Okay, roll call.
Kathy,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Clay,
Yes.
Okay, I guess I won't file paperwork then.
You don't want to.
Yeah, that guy let us on.
Getting our work out of us tonight. All right, director's report, you're on.
Okay,
where's my little thing?
COVID strikes Tad. It's a great headline for the day.
No newspaper.
So pretty much everybody here, with the exception of Junie, came down with COVID over the holidays, so would have been hard to have meetings anyway because it kind of trailed one another. One medic was out for weeks with COVID. We had an employee who lost their mother. Up north, another employee had a partner who was in ICU for weeks. We're all back at work, but I think everybody has kind of seen some lingering effect of one type or another since we've been back, but we're all back. New building update, we own it now. We're in the underwriting phase according to USDA, that's what they call it. They've scheduled weekly conference calls. They've been actually on there every time. It's not a big long call, it's just kind of making sure we're keeping the process moving forward. Because it took so long, we were actually, Barbara found the original schedule, we're supposed to be moving into the building next month. I don't think it's gonna happen. We need to resubmit documents from potential lenders showing that their rates and terms are not as good as USDA.
What is the percent on the USDA?
It's like 1.2
So it's not one.
Right, I think the least expensive commercial bank is 3.89, I think we got, so. So I've already gotten one from Bank of the West that was submitted, and I'm waiting on NBank to send a second one so we need to. And we also needed the approval of the USDA document that you had and you've done, so. Medical director, for those of you who didn't know, Dr.
Oh my God.
Weber resigned as medical director.
Oh, no.
And for the region, he's got an inoperable brain tumor. And it's devastating. I mean, I think everybody here, there's nobody here who hasn't had tears flow because that guy has just been so phenomenal here. And I mean,
How old is he?
65 or
God.
66, I think,
Horrible
yeah.
story.
Where is he out of?
Pueblo.
They had a big to-do for him at St. Mary Corwin. All the flights and nurses and doctors and everything from the ER did a big celebration when he was moving his stuff out.
When was that, last month?
I think so.
I hadn't heard anything.
Yeah, they did a drive-by, the Pueblo agencies did a drive-by past his house.
Yeah.
All the ambulances, they never let us know we would have done it. Cognitively, I don't think he anymore, which is, it's just a shame. It used to be so much fun to go with him to the Gathering of Eagles. And the first time we went, he was there for about 10 minutes and they were doing those rapid presentations. They do 110 presentations in 2 days. So everything is in and out. It's kind of a board presentation of this is what we looked at, this is how we looked at it, this is what we found, and then you're out. And he was, the way he had the notes going, 10 minutes into it, he turns to me and goes, it's already worth it to come here. He was like a kid in a candy store. And every time we went, it would lead to us coming back and changing some of the guidelines that we have to be more progressive, more advanced. And getting rid of backboards, which I never thought I'd see in my lifetime after 42 years of using backboards. Now it's kind of passé. The iGel we brought and he put into Trinidad Ambulance actually brought that airway to Colorado. Dr. Weber liked it, let us use it. We had good success with it. It went on to other agencies. And now it becomes so popular. When did we bring that? About 5 years ago, Gabe?
Yeah.
And it's become so popular that there's no more pediatric intubation. It's only with eye gels. So we're the only agency that I know of that Dr. Weber told us about that's actually doing heads-up CPR. So we're doing things that are, because of Dr. Weber, that are more advanced than some other places that are in even the metropolitan areas. And he's just going to be greatly missed. Dr. Numpson out of Canyon City, RETAC had a succession plan. And so when Dr. Weber resigned, Dr. Numpson fell into that spot. He's got the regional medical director role, and he's allowed us to order medications. Got a new DEA license through him so that they can ship here, so we haven't missed a beat with that. The RETAC is hoping to name a new director. They have until March 15th, and they're trying, or was it
The 31st.
31st? So they're trying to do it by March 1st. And Numpson wants to do it, but he doesn't know if he's going to have the time, so he's kind of trying to see if he can adjust things to do that. The consensus was, since Dr. Numpson's already kind of gotten everybody's meds and their DEA licenses, to just kind of leave him in that position, at least interim, until they decide that they want to make a real change. And TAD always has the option. The regional director is just kind of there for represent us for guidelines and at the state meetings and things. But every agency, EMS agency, has to have its own medical director outside of RETAC, and we're looking at several options. I can't say to replace Dr. Weber, but as a physician advisor for Trinidad Ambulance.
Who's this Dr. Newsom? Does he work at the hospital up there in Canyon?
Did what?
Does he work in the hospital
Yeah,
up there in
St. Thomas
Canyon?
More, yeah.
Okay. In the ER? He's in ER?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got years of experience. There's another doctor who I think is the medical director for Flight for Life, and Dr. Stephen Leto, and he was interested in it, but what I thought was kind of a classy movie deferred to Dr. Numpson, because Numpson's got more years of experience, and so it was kind of very, very collegial. Next. Adding another full-time ALS provider, so Ben Gladden, who was a part-timer for us, he's an intermediate. He's decided to work full-time TAD starting February 6th. And this brings us back to having only 1 out of the 6 crews of BLS. So we'll have all ALS crews other than that one crew on one day. Workers' comp insurance was up December 31st, and I'm always looking to see if we can save money, because Trinidad Ambulance District, when people who do workers' comp take a look at our experience rating, what kind of injuries and claims we have, we just basically, I hope these are wood. We don't have them, and so our experience rating is incredibly low, and we end up getting refunds back. But I wanted to see if there were other places out there that might provide it at even more of a discount. So we checked. Our old agent that used to be with VFIS is kind of out on his own. He found a company just specifically for public safety named 7710. They actually ask questions about how we do things, our policies, our procedures, driver training, all that kind of stuff. And they were impressed with us, and the premium that they offered was actually less expensive, premium to premium, but by the time we get our refunds and discounts from Pinnacle, it ends up being cheaper to stay with Pinnacle, so we ended up just staying with Pinnacle. Captain DeTrey and I went to American Ambulance Association in Dallas. We've been looking for some electronic medical record and billing options for the district. I think the billing options, you see a reason why we're looking at billing options, because we need somebody to work our claims. The EMRs, the current one, ESO, is probably the most widely used, I think, right now in the country, or getting it at least on par with all the others. And it's widely used, but it has so many fields that have to be filled in. It takes about 45 minutes for crews to do these reports. So, I mean, it takes them 30 minutes to run a call in town. It takes them 45 minutes to do paperwork associated with the call. So we're scheduling a demo with a company named Image Trend. They've been around for a long time. And we actually were looking at some of the things that they had, and it's much more user definable and much more customizable, so we don't have to go through all the stuff. Because anytime an agency wants something, ESO just kind of changes the whole program, and now those changes become part of our program, even though we don't need them. So we're looking at something that's a little more customizable. And they also have a built-in, they do billing as well. So they have a billing component in Image Trend. They kind of act almost as separate companies, but all the data that's captured on the run report automatically transfers to the billing stuff, and it's automatically transmitted to their billing company so that the claims can get filed. So maybe save Barbara some work too, because right now she's got to batch all these things and then she's got to send them to the billing company. So I think as companies get bigger, they tend to just rest on their laurels, and they don't, they kind of it used to be whatever the customer wanted. Now they're doing more things of what's easier for them, what's more profitable for them. So that's what we're seeing. We also talked to some billing companies, and it looks like when we first started with this company, Enhanced Medical Services, they were actually pretty good. Enhanced sold out to this quick med claims, and they just don't seem to be working the claims like they used to. We're currently working to clean that up, but it's the second time within a year that we've had to call them up and tell them we're watching this steadily climb and we need them to get on working these claims. So we already had one demo from a company out of North Carolina, and they were actually pretty impressive with what they offer and the information that we can get and the ease of the billing process. And they also interface with Image Trend, so it would work almost identical to Image Trend, where the billing information would automatically get sent. The biggest concern we have for Kathy, I don't think were you here when we were still trying to get the bills collected from the company we had in Pueblo when you first got here? We had
I don't remember.
we hired somebody at Century Financial to do nothing but make sure the company, when we decided we weren't going to use them as our billing company anymore, they just stopped working claims. So everything that had been sent to them, they're like, yeah, well, we're not your company anymore, so we're not doing it. It's like, but they're your claims. You've filed them, you need to work them, and no, we're not going to do it. So we hired somebody to kind of continue that process to make sure all that, as much of it could be collected as possible, and that's my only concern if you switch companies. We don't have a firm quote from anybody as to what they would charge right now. We're at 6.5%, which is pretty decent. So whatever, and that's what they collect, not what's billed out. It's only what they collect in cash. We pay 6.5%. We also talked to several different insurance companies. Our insurance is coming up March or April. We've got a couple months coming up. And we talked to several vendors. Our rates are actually pretty good, but again, I don't want to just assume that we're getting the best rate. So we're working with several vendors, including Dudley, who is our old agent, to see if there's other companies or other creative ways that we can lower that insurance premium and still keep the coverage that we have. Again, the medication and equipment shortages, I think, is going to be a problem. Gabe is ordering stuff. He's being told by vendors that there's going to be, pretty much every vendor that we use has sent us an email telling us, just expect this, it's coming. You're going to end up with medication shortages, equipment shortages, supply.
Allocations again.
You getting the same thing? Okay. The suppliers told us that the price increases are being implemented immediately. So even though Gabe goes on and does his shopping thing, we make fun of him because he goes to 12 different sites. He's frugal, the word we use.
I don't think that's the word.
And he, even though he's ordered stuff and he's ordered it at the lowest price, they're telling us that, yeah, we know you ordered it at that price, but by the time it ships, it's probably gonna be at the new price. So, it's kind of hard to, yeah. And you gotta have the stuff.
And I'm seeing it, because when I put your POs in, and then we get the inventory and they send the invoice, I'm seeing the
Mhm.
changes, yeah.
Yeah, there's a difference. This could be serious depending on what happens. We had medication shortages about 2 years ago. And I mean, there's some of the things that we can't get are just crazy things like sugar water we couldn't get and salt water. So two things that, IV solution, was very hard to get. And then when the medications, the cardiac drugs, and they're saying the cardiac drugs are going to be probably some of the hardest hit, that those are going to be the biggest shortages. When those hit, the FDA came out and immediately extended all expiration dates 6 months. So I don't know how they magically last longer, but that was how they did it. And the state did allow for substitutions, and we're hoping that there will be substitutions for some of the medications that some of these things there's really no substitute for. So.
I'm sorry, but there are a lot of studies that show that these meds, that they don't expire on the date. They actually last for many, many, many years.
Oh, yes.
It's just all about,
Oh yes.
So I would not throw anything away, Mr. Frugal.
Yeah. Well, Gabe looks at it and he says, "Are there any chunks in there?" I mean, we just had our inspection in November, and they go through and look at all that stuff. And every month we go through, we don't leave them on there. If they tell us we can leave them, we'll leave them.
Yeah.
But
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, there's nobody that disagrees with you. That's for sure. I went to a conference on trauma and wellness, and luckily enough, it was in Oklahoma City. And this is something that's put on to talk about first responder resilience and mental health. And I think everybody that works here has seen me probably break down just talking about this thing. It was phenomenal. The keynote speaker was the fire chief. He just retired as fire chief a couple of years ago from Oklahoma City. And if you remember the Oklahoma City bombing, there was a famous picture in the cover of Time magazine or whatever, of a firefighter in his bunkers holding a baby in his hand. And he ended up being a fire chief. That's the guy. And he was talking about how he thought he was doing fine. He didn't think he had any problems. And then he was having a pool put in. And when they were pouring the cement, the smell of the cement triggered him. Mm-hmm. And it just reminded him of that day and all the water on the cement on the building. And it just brought back all those memories. And he was drinking, fooling around. And he said the people at work didn't know anything was going on. And he thought everything was fine. And then finally somebody got to him and he realized he wasn't fine, that his life was going down the tubes. And so, we've had an increase in EMS suicides over the years. I mean, it's been a focus for the past, probably really heavily six years or so. There was a Code Green project where they were trying to prevent this. And that's what these guys are trying to do, is trying to help you get through. We see some things out in the field that nobody should see. And so they want you to get past that and to have a plan. One of the classes was about retirement, and it was like, they're like, what happens when you retire? Have you thought about it? And I thought, well, I just figured I'd retire and that would be it. And they're like, you're not getting what it's going to be like. I don't know if Clay gets this, but it's kind of like all of a sudden your life has changed, where they said they had one guy who was like 40-something years he put in with some highway patrol. And then the day after he retires, he goes to the station, his card doesn't work anymore. And they're like, well, yeah, you need to sign in and get a visitor badge and all. He's like, you were, and yesterday you were, today you're not. Right. And so they said you have to kind of mentally prepare for that, and that's why a lot of guys end up taking their own lives, because it's such a drastic change in life for them. But the speakers were phenomenal. They were all very experienced. I started the process of getting a local crisis response team for our first responders here. We had a meeting last week, I think it was, with us, the police department, fire department, and LASO were here. We want to get the fire districts involved if they can come in. And it wouldn't be possible without Danielle Kolakowski. In this community, the first responder community, Danielle Kolakowski has been just a phenomenal resource for us. When Travis Russell died, when Matt died, when we had the train wreck with the family, and when we get these really traumatic events that have people a little upset, they're traumatized. She's always been there. She comes out. She's come to the hospital. She was there till 3 a.m. talking to people, and so now what we want to do is kind of formalize this and see if we can create a system of not just a crisis response, but also an ongoing counseling thing so that people stay healthy and stay in their jobs and don't have those bad thoughts. And that meeting is scheduled with Health Solutions, where we're starting on February 15th, and we're gonna keep this ball rolling. So yeah, I think it's gonna be an excellent thing. And that's it.
Does Danielle work for Health Solutions?
No, she's doing her own private practice. You like a card?
Yes, I need one.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Lord. I actually might have this in my desk. I think somebody may have.
Yeah, she did work for Health Solutions years ago. When I first got here, she was with Health Solutions, and then she was running Mount Carmel for a while, and then she ended up starting her own private practice. So.
Is she a therapist or a psychologist? Or?
She's a master's. She's a licensed professional counselor.
Wonderful.
All right, operations report?
So October, November, and December are all in the packet, but I'm just gonna go over December to make this kind of short and sweet. I do wanna note though, November 21, we ran 230 calls that month. So it was a busy month. December 21, 189 requests for service, 48 were non-transports, 141 were transports with 34 in the facility workers and 1 flight from scene. And our on-call crew transported 3 patients. And then for the year, we did 417 interfacility transfers. It says 420, but 3 of those were wait and returns. And we put just shy of 84,000 miles on our rigs in just interfacility transfers. So, but that 417 includes CT transfers to Colfax County and back, trips home, trips to the nursing home, that kind of thing. So, and that's all I have.
Fleet management?
Well, we finally got a leg up on getting some of the issues done. All 5 trucks are up and running. We have a few lingering things. Update on 1901 that we're rechassing. That's what we got the grant for, and then we're going to pay the half 50% of that. Right now, as it sits, is 169,640 miles. That was put in service May of 2019, so right at about 32 months. We had some issues with that had a refurbished box, had some electrical issues and stuff, so it was down for a couple months. So it don't really show what it could be, and then we don't use that in bad weather, inclement weather, due to the fact it's just 2-wheel drive. But with that, we're averaging about 5,300 miles on that truck over the 32 months. 5,300 a month. The newest unit we got, it's only got 8,000 miles on it. Already got a recall from Ford that they got to do a big job on the transmission. Phil on Ford saying 3 days. I'm not as quite optimistic for 3 days, but they said 10 hours. They said they wanted it for 3 days. I'm figuring it's going to be a week. So that's with here lately. We've had probably the last 3 weeks with the last 3 storms. We got 4 units out. Last night, we had 4 units, four units, and Gabe and I were out until 1 o'clock this morning. So it's getting busier, and we're utilizing that. So Phil Long's got the parts ordered, and as soon as they come in, I'm just kind of limping that along. Nothing's wrong with it, it's just the potential. Yeah, and then as I reported last in October, some of the things that we were plagued with, turbos, we had 3 turbos put on, 1501, ECM programming, injectors leaking. But happy to report they're all up and running and moving forward. That's all I have.
And 1501 is also our COVID rig, so if we're transporting somebody with COVID, because it's got the box that closes, that's the one we take up north, so that's getting some miles on it. So how many miles has that got on it now, you know, offhand?
Oh, we're probably close to, well, we're pushing close to 160 plus. But if you realize that was a 2015,
right?
It's got 160,000 miles on it. And a 2019, just 4 years
170.
newer, it's got 170. So that's the difference. That's one of the reasons we went with that. It was cheaper, the gas, but the gas motors just ain't holding up going back and down the road, and we don't see a lot of cost savings on that, and you don't get as many miles out of it. So that's where we're at. Any questions?
Anybody? Okay, anything under miscellaneous?
I just had a question. When the crews go out of town, do they have a per diem or something? They get meals? Because, you know, when you start thinking Pueblo, well, that's a 4-hour trip. Springs, that's probably a 6-hour. I don't know. Denver's an 8-hour. That's a long time, and I wondered if we shouldn't think about providing something for them, some per diem where they could buy a meal, get reimbursed. I mean, we're spending, you know, I looked at some stuff, and we spend about $6,000 or so a year on pizza and all that stuff around here. But maybe we should think about the crews when they go out of town, and so they don't have to necessarily, especially the big trips, which seems like there's more to Springs and north of that lately than anywhere else, and you hate to see them have to reach in their pockets. So maybe just some thought about per diem.
I think that would be a great idea.
I think that would be awesome. That's
I
a
mean,
good benefit.
I think I would opt for less pizza here and more per diem out of town, but that's just a thought. So
That's one of the reasons we do it here, and that's been kind of when we do that, that's everybody sitting here talking about what's going on, you know. But it's also, if they're eating here, then when they get that call, then they're not hungry when they go up there. So it's been it's kind of worked out. Yeah. And then on the way back, they switch drivers every 20 minutes at 3 a.m. Yeah. You know how it is. But I think it's a great idea. I think that would be, if you guys are okay with that. I don't think it needs board approval, but I would.
I have no idea what per diems are anymore, so I don't know what you would think about, you know, should it be a little more if you go to Denver?
It typically is the metro areas are more.
Well, and just so you guys know how we always done it is, and that's what we look at, is 3 hours. We want our crews to turn Pueblo transfer in 3 hours or less. We want Springs in 6 hours or less, and Denver, obviously that's different now with construction in the gap. The other thing's different is now we're going farther in Springs. To Memorial North, to Children's North, those type of things. Usually what we've always said was, if you go to Springs, we recommend that you stop. You know, you grab something to eat at a fast food joint, or something quick. You sit down, get it done, get back on the road, get a break. So
mine was Mountain Dew and M&M.
Well, yeah.
As much sugar and caffeine as ever.
And then Denver. We encouraged them, or we gave them the ability to sit down at like a restaurant and go.
So maybe if we take the step of actually paying for some of that, it'll encourage them a little bit. So maybe you could think of some dollar amounts, bring it back.
We'll talk to them. when we're sitting around here and we're talking, we'll say, this came up, what would be fair?
Yes, it would.
Because they know, right?
Could you just give them a credit card? I mean,
Hell no.
I mean, give them a limit, but I mean.
No, we get, well, yeah, that'll be the.
Yeah, that's not trying to turn a receipt in, that's kind of more of a pain for them.
Yeah.
They just run a credit card up there, I mean, as long as within reason, I mean, if it's gonna be.
Well, you'll get a receipt with that or
Yeah.
something anyway.
That's a great idea.
Okay. Good.
Love it. Okay, anything else under miscellaneous? I just want to say thank you guys to those that participated when my grandson came home. He's still talking about it, he's still beaming. He has one ice cream bar he will not eat, it's just staying in there. And he's just so tickled by all of you and the fire crew and everybody that came out and did the little parade for him and stuff, so I just want to say thanks.
Freddie was fired up.
Oh man, it was awesome.
He
was awesome.
talking
Yeah, we
about
have
that.
the video and all that, so yeah, it was awesome. He's doing great too. He's walking without his brace now. He still has no movement on the left arm, but he is walking without his
Well, how
brace.
far can he get it up? So, no movement, but he was able to.
Yeah, he can still, but he's using his whole body to move it, but he can,
All right.
yeah. But, yeah, he's doing therapy twice a week and doing well. So thank you guys for doing that. That just made his day, well, his whole
It's a long time.
couple of
Yeah,
months.
That's
So,
fun.
yeah. All right. Okay. Anybody else? Oh, jeez.
Once or twice a day.
Real.
Oh, yeah. We've had patients that we've given Narcan in the morning. They sign out of the hospital AMA, and we see them again that afternoon.
Is there gonna be a shortage of Narcan?
Good question.
It's hit and miss.
Really?
The cops keep giving 16 milligrams.
Yeah. Boy, they're
Actually,
loading them up, yeah.
we were totally out in November.
Oh my
We had to
God.
go to the health department, we took whatever they had left. Luckily, I had some on order, and we got it in time that we were able to give the health department theirs back. But then they turned around and gave it to the PD because they were out.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's insane that, I mean, in this town, one or two a day.
So sad.
It's sad.
So sad.
It's just really sad.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, next item, executive session. 24-6-402 4E, CRS, Mount San Rafael Hospital. So we need to hold the regular meeting as of,
Well, we need a motion
okay,
to adjourn.
I always forget if we need
Yeah.
that or not.
We need a motion to adjourn and then vote on that. And then we'll have an adjourn time.
Okay,
And then we'll turn the recorder off and then turn it back over to you.
okay. All right, so I need a motion to adjourn the regular meeting so we can go into executive session.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Kathy?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Floyd? Valerie?
I'm sorry, yes. I'm trying to listen.
Yeah.
Be a part.
My ears went that way, I'm so sorry.
God, she wants to bounce back up.
She got 16 milligrams.
Quick question, are you guys gonna come out and vote?
No.
No, okay.
Adjourn the meeting at 5:39.
Want our witnesses to stay?
I'm gonna turn this
Yes.
off.
Okay.
Sure, they can say,
Or
that's right.
Gabe and
They
Bob.
can say.